guess it's our way of behaviourally targeting, similar to search engine marketing, where we can go out and capture a specific subset of our panel that might have a real-time intent in terms of purchasing, or perhaps they're expecting their first child, so you know it's a defined 9-month period in their life. And I'll cover off a little bit more about pre-qualifying later. We also have 110,000 members that have opted into mobile in terms of SMS. We have 270,000 members in small, medium enterprise. We can filter by industry, occupation, company size, purchasing, decision making, things like that. 19 different demographic profiles and 53 special interest areas we can filter by. So obviously our members, when they sign up to our websites, we incentivise them for selecting this by giving us this information up front. If they don't provide all this information up front, we send more emails to ensure that they do, so we can concentrate our targeting as best possible. In terms of managing our database, we have a hard bounce policy, so we guarantee at least 99% delivery rate. So if email bounces, we take the person off the database. As I mentioned before, we systematically remove members that aren't active. So if they don't click and they don't start surveys, we see no need for them to be on the panel. And we encourage members to update their profile information, every 3 months. We obviously adhere to all the ADMA spam and direct marketing code. We were actually in the business of EDM before they'd even drafted this legislation, so we actually kind of work with ADMA to develop this code of conduct. So, I mean, this is something that is crucial when you start out recruiting a panel, is making sure that you've properly opted in people and they're aware of what they've opted into. In terms of our member acquisition, we use search a lot and affiliate. We also use kind of PR and word of mouth and getting people to refer friends and family they know. Also radio and press. But most of our recruitment comes more on the online side of things. I'll just cover off a case study for a really large tracker that we've been involved for a number of years. So it's a 3.5-hour survey. This survey is the largest of its kind in Australia. It's a weekly tracker. It covers off, it has quotas on age, it has gender, it has geographic region quotas. And as you can imagine, a 3.5-hour survey is just incredibly long. So people can do it in stages. So we send reminder emails if they've done stage 1 but not 2 and 3. But we've managed to deliver 150 to 200 completes per week for the last 3 or 4 years. So 21,000 completes today. It is a bit of a nightmare, but it kind of proves what we're capable of. Now, I talked about pre-qualification before. This is something that, as I said, it kind of covers off the behavioural targeting that's in the search engine marketing space. So what we can go out and do is we can go out with an email that has a question or a set of questions. I'll give you an example. We did one recently for car purchase behaviour and car purchase intent. So we went out and asked if you bought a car and what year you bought the car in, so we could get an indication of how recently you bought the car. Then we asked actually it wasn't a car, it was a vehicle, sorry. We asked what type of vehicle, so light car, small car, medium car, small sports utility, medium sports utility. We get quite granular on it. And then we also asked when the person intended to purchase their next vehicle, what kind of vehicle they were considering. So lots of different options there, but it allows you to get really kind of targeted. And we've used this for, in this example, a major car brand has been doing this with us. Very low incidence rate, 0.8 to 1% incident rate of the general population. and there's a 4-month exclusion period, so we can't reuse sample. If someone's completed before, they can't do it again. So for this particular client, we've delivered 375 completes, about 125 per way, so that's something that's ongoing. It's being done by one of the major research companies in Australia. Yeah, just to cover off the future and where I see things going. Online forums, I don't think have been used a lot in Australia today. They've been used a lot overseas, but I mean, I think there's definitely potential to do more qualitative research online. It's very cost effective. I think it's a smart thing to do in Australia in terms of central location testing. It isn't always possible in remote areas. So it's cost effective in that sense. I think the national broadband network will also increase penetration and people will be more online in more remote areas, so there's some potential there. I mean, there's some cons as well. I mean, I guess you don't have that face-to-face interaction, that non-verbal cues. So that's maybe a bit of a downside. Another, I think, major piece of potential is being able to behaviourally target surveys through Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You know, if someone's discussing a topic on Twitter or Facebook, if you had the ability to feed a survey into the news feed, you know that person's passionate about a certain topic and they're discussing that topic. That would be, you know, I think would deliver a very high level of engagement. But then on the other hand, you've got to look at why people are in Facebook. Maybe they're just in there to interact with their friends. So is it intrusive? Is it going to get people offside? Mobile, again, this is something that's really big overseas. Our viewpoint at the moment is there's not a lot of surveys that are being scripted or programmed for mobile devices. When I say that, you know, some of them might be advertising tracking surveys and they'll have flash in them. And anyone who's got an Apple device can't do the survey, heaps of dropouts. So I think mobiles provide a lot of potential in the future for shorter length surveys, so people commuting, so probably a survey that's 20 minutes or less. Ideally a survey that's only 10 minutes. I think smartphone apps will provide a lot of potential for people to update their profile information while they're on the run. And that is important, making sure your members' profiles are up to date. And also mobile will allow geo-targeting of quick polls based on people attending a certain event, for example. So if they've gone to Vivid Live at Sydney Opera House, you know, what did you think of the event? What would you short answer of what you'd like to see improve for next year? Customer installed software. So one of the major issues with panels and people these days is their inboxes are being hammered. Like they're getting emails from daily deal sites from all directions. They're getting emails coming in. So allowing people to download a notification software or a widget on their phone or their computer that bypasses their inbox where everything else is coming into. And that's pretty much it. I was going to leave my business cards on the table over here if anyone's interested and has any questions after today. But yeah, I guess I'll open it up to any questions or we'll do the Q&A later.
We'll do the Q&A at the end, I think. So yeah, just in case we cross over. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Robert. So our final speaker for today is Fiona Gill. Fiona's appearing, I'm sure she has observations to make in her academic research capacity, but she's appearing today as a member in good standing of the Ethics Committee, which must be a cross to bear, I imagine.
Nonsense. I suppose that I've just been told I can't be too cynical. And I'm aware that a lot of you will have had dealings with the Ethics Committee at some point. I'm sure all of them have been entirely positive. But I suppose one of the things that I do want to say, and I don't have a PowerPoint, but is that the Ethics Committee at the University of Sydney is very much like ethics committees across you're all very, very aware of possibilities of online research. Most of us as active researchers are very excited about possibilities of online research. However, and the big however is that no one really knows how to deal with many of the issues around ethics which are related to online research. And this is not limited to Sydney University, it's not limited to Australia, it's actually international. If you want to have a look at any of the literature around that, I have actually got a list of literature which I can forward to you, but a lot of it is sort of this sense that all of the ethical rules that we have for dealing with people face to face as researchers, which most of us are reasonably good at, I think by now, in the last 50 years or so we have drastically improved our practices. A lot of these seem to have not gone out the window but become increasingly difficult to implement as soon as we go online. And this is in part because of the possibilities that online research offers us. All of a sudden we can target vast numbers of people. We can target people who are geographically distant to us. We don't need to be physically in the same location. Responses are very, very quick. We can look at communities which didn't exist prior to online world, so we can look at actual online forums and analyse what's going on there. There's a wealth of data out there. And that's brilliant. But actually dealing with these is proving to be quite difficult from an ethical standpoint. So there are really, I suppose, two big issues that people keep on running into from our perspective on the committee. And there are a range of other ones which we can talk about. But the two I really wanted to sort of talk about, first of all, are around the issues around privacy, confidentiality and intellectual property. And then I also want to talk briefly about the issue around scientific merit and recruitment. And both of these are really the big issues that we kind of have to deal with as a committee. And then there's a range of other ones. This is specifically around recruitment. First issue that we tend to look at around ethics and around online stuff is around actually intellectual property and data ownership. That is, there is the assumption by a lot of researchers that we can do research online unproblematically and that in fact the data that we collect will be ours forevermore. And this data may actually be survey responses, but it may also be things like personal details of our respondents. And one of the things that as social researchers we tend to do is give our respondents guarantees of confidentiality and anonymity. And I think that we would all agree that that's one of the things, primary sort of focuses that we actually have, one of the guarantees we actually give. Issues with this have included in the past the fact that people have collected all of their data online and then discovered that they do not in fact hold intellectual property. And as a university we have serious problems about that, because our focus on the ethics committee is to actually ensure that you as academics have the right to publish from your data. That's one of our primary concerns. We're actually on your side here. But a lot of academics simply go online and they're trying to do research online, which is brilliant, but don't actually read the terms and conditions on websites or service providers, which may or may not give you intellectual property over the data. And the university will not allow or try to prevent intellectual property being vested anywhere other than here at the university with you. And the reason we do this is so that we make sure that you guys can actually publish, so that we have the property, the data, not a commercial interest. That's the first thing around data. The second thing involves details and personal details of our respondents. People seem to think that this is something we overreact about, but in fact, the location of that data is really important because it doesn't just exist online. It exists somewhere. It exists in a particular jurisdiction and it is held by a particular company. This is a good thing. It's there somewhere. Brilliant. But there's been at least one case that we are aware of where a student has actually had all of the details of their respondents somewhere as they needed to hold, and then the company actually got sold. And the new company began spamming all of her respondents with various advertising requests, contacted them directly, and she was actually the subject of an ethics complaint. And that's fair enough, because you know what? She guaranteed anonymity and confidentiality to her respondents, And in fact, that had been breached. So we take these sorts of things quite seriously because we don't really want to have to investigate you guys for breach of confidential anonymity. You don't want to be investigated for that sort of thing. But it gives you a sense of, well, what do we actually do? How do you actually manage these kind of things? How do you manage the personal details of your respondents? And I think it's fine if you're working with a panel, for example, that can work extremely well. I think it's a really good option. But if you were developing your own panel, where you have the contact details of everyone and the people have consented to be part of your panel on drug abuse or political affiliation or whatever, what do you do with that data? Who holds that data and who actually owns that data? Because the ethical responsibility stops with you. And this is the sort of questions that the ethics committee is actually going to be asking. Do you own the data? Does the company own the data? Where is it actually located? Is it located within Australia? Is it located in the United States? Located in Europe? All of these places have actually different legal opinions about what data can actually be taken out of the country, who owns the data, who can access the data. And you can imagine for some research it's probably fairly unproblematic, but for some research topics that's actually really important and significant. Some things you don't want other people being able to access. So that's sort of the stuff that we think about in terms of privacy and confidentiality, in terms of personal data. The other things that I would suggest are things around confidentiality if we're just doing things like Facebook searching or working on or online forums as a way of sort of targeting people. One of the issues with this is it does actually breach people's privacy and confidentiality. The assumption that whatever's on the internet is public is actually quite problematic. It's actually quite contested. There are many sites now, online forums, people assume that you can just read it equals public. But actually, if you read the terms and conditions of the forum, increasing numbers of forums are actually saying that if you're a researcher, go away. You need to ask permission. And again, we ask questions about this because people sort of write, well, it's on the internet, it's public, and we are increasingly asking questions, could you please read the terms and conditions that actually states that this is not a public forum. Even if you can read it, it doesn't actually mean you can research off it. One of the reasons for this is actually that the internet is a text-based media. That it's actually, as we all know, extremely, I mean, all of us have used Google Scholar at some point, if I need to check for plagiarism cases. You know, you type in a little phrase that someone has and you pop off to wherever it is. Actually, you can do exactly the same thing on an online forum. And people frequently use the same identity on different online forums. I mean, I'm sure all of us have maybe several online identities. But actually, some of us will have used the same online identity for multiple. Would you be happy with the researcher actually tracking you across multiple forums and multiple sites? So again, we would begin asking questions about, well, to what extent are you actually able to use these forums in order to do that? Precisely because you may be breaching someone's privacy. And we believe that people do have the right to privacy, unless they explicitly state otherwise. That's the first section. The second thing we've got an issue with is around scientific merit and recruitment. I know Robert touched on this a little bit. One of the big issues that we have, one of the great things about the online world, online media, is that people tend to write an awful lot because they are largely anonymous, and so there's a lot of data out there, and that's great. We all know about the disinhibition effect around research, the fact that people do open up. We know that there is a sense in which identity is played with online, that is, that people will play with more exciting identities than the ones they usually have in real world. The difficulty with this is the question around who are you actually recruiting? Now, in the offline world we have, I'm sure you're all familiar with that extremely long list of things that you want to be ticking no to, so it's a low risk application. So, you know, you've got your children, you've got Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, the mentally ill, the homeless, members of the armed forces, prisoners, refugees, you know, that long list, very long list. One of the problems with the online world is that actually you kind of rely on people to be honest about, for example, how old they are. So if you're doing research on people who are, you know, 18 and above, and you have a 16-year-old coming on, we know, for example, Facebook has a policy that no one under the age of 13 can have a Facebook page. Well, I'm sure that all of us are aware of, certainly no one in this room has children under the age of 13 who are doing this, I'm sure, but certainly we know of children who are considerably younger who have that page, and all they're doing is actually altering the year of their birth. I mean, 10-year-olds are not stupid, they can do basic maths. So how can you actually sort of guarantee that the people you think that you're recruiting are in fact the people you need to be recruiting? Because the other side of what the ethics committee does is actually around scientific merit. So we need to actually know that you're not wasting people's time by doing the research. So if you're doing research on, 25-year-old drug users, we want to make sure you are actually targeting the 25-year-old drug users and not 14-year-old drug users. We want to make sure that, it isn't, you're not targeting the wrong people in order to make sure that actually your research is valid, that your results are sound. Now there are some checks that you can make, but actually if you're not face-to-face with the person, how do you know who's doing it on the other end? And how are you going to guarantee that your research is reliable and valid and verifiable? The final thing around this is actually around consent, and the extent to which you can actually get informed consent to the research that you're doing. This is around, scientific merit and recruitment. Usually we ask for a signed thing. If you're looking at Facebook pages, to what extent is someone actually allowing you to look? And to what extent is someone actually giving you informed consent for the implications of what your research is actually going to be? And how are you going to actually give us an answer to that question? How do you actually guarantee that? So, online research, I'm keeping this quite short because, ethics has a tendency to sort of spiral. But I just want to flag up that we're not, and particularly the ethics committee is not opposed to online research. We don't deliberately set out to make things difficult for researchers. But what we are actually trying to do is manage a fairly unwieldy beast to make sure that everyone actually ends up with the right outcome. That is, that you as researchers get what you need out of it, but also that the rights and your ethical responsibilities to your respondents are taken into account, which is something I think that because online research is easy, and certainly easier than doing a lot of other recruitment methods, it can be very easy, that we're in going down the